My name is Breyana Rolon. I'm a political science major, and I've decided to do my presentation on how feminism is changing the world. The fight for gender equality. Feminists have shed a light on treatment of women and how unfair the system is. A system set up in favor of men since the very beginning of time. Feminists have made great strides in gender equality as well as in human rights worldwide. Sadly, the word feminism has grown to have a negative connotation connected to it over the years, many feminists being seen as man-haters and trying to take over the world. Taking a closer look at the achievements and goals of feminist movements across the world and how they compare to the waves of feminism in America will give a better idea of how feminism has and continues to change the world. The fight for gender equality continues. On the left, we have a photo of suffragettes protesting President Wilson and how he refused to grant women the right to vote. On the right, we have a photo of Susan B. Anthony, most well known for her fight for women's rights. In many states, the law stated that in order to vote, one must own property, and in order to own property, one had to be a man. It has been argued by many that women of the American colonies in the 17th century enjoyed much more legal freedom than those back in England due to legal formalities that had been in place for decades. As the years in the colonies progressed, women's rights became more and more constricted, while women in England were gaining ground on property rights. In 1839, Massachusetts became the first state in America to allow women to own land separate of that of their husbands. In England, it was not until 1882 that Parliament altered the Married Women's Property Act to allow married women to own and maintain their own property separate of that of their husbands. Suffragettes were largely ignored and told that there were more important matters the country needed to work on before worrying about women's voting rights, such as World War I. With Kate Sheppard leading the suffrage movement in New Zealand, this state became the first to grant all women the right to vote in 1839. Suffragist Susan B. Anthony has been credited with winning voting rights for women in the U.S. with her push at Congress to pass the 19th Amendment, which happened in 1920. Equal education. Charles E. Eliot, who was at one point the president of Harvard University, made his strong feelings known of how there should be a new form of education, specifically for women. His thoughts on this were gaining momentum before M. Carey Thomas pointed to the progress of the American suffragist movement in America and how they have managed to move mountains. She also points to an area of the world that has surpassed the U.S. in public education, which would be Asia, as well as another part of the world that has remained decades behind and continues to suffer from lack of education of women today, which would be in Africa. Equality in the workplace. Equality in the workplace is an issue that's been covered in the media most recently. There was a huge scandal over in the UK regarding a woman who was outraged when her employers sent her home after she refused to wear heels. Employers in the UK are legally allowed to enforce gender-specific dress codes. And many people did not realize this until this incident happened. Women all over the world are also paid less than men in the same exact position. This has been a big issue with past elections here in the United States.